Good evening, this is Lama Jigme, and tonight we're going to learn an introductory method for Buddhist manifestation. Now, there are many spiritual and metaphysical paths. Some are geared primarily towards manifestation. When I think about manifestation, I think about the character of Willow Rosenberg from the TV show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and she definitely had some kick-ass witchy-poo powers. I don't. Buddhism really isn't designed first and foremost to manifest wealth. Now, does that mean you can't? No. There are wonderful techniques we can use to help us on the path to becoming solvent and, making sure our needs are met. So tonight I'm going to teach you something that I like to call the three-couplet prayer, or the six-line prayer, and it's a good place to warm up on. Like I said, I would not expect to wake up to a $10 million check after having recited it one time. But like I said, it's a very good place to start. So my guest tonight is a fellow named Bryan. I sent him an email with the six-line prayer, also known as the three-couplet prayer, and I will read it to you right now. And first line is Om Mani Padme Hum. Second line, great wealth for Bryan. Second couplet, Om Mani Padme Hum, great wealth for all. Third couplet, Om Mani Padme Hum, completely letting go. First things first, we're going to begin with an explanation of what the mantra means. And then we'll discuss how to pronounce it. So first things first. Om Mani Padme Hum is basically Om, jewel lotus, Hum. Om basically is invocation. Hum in Buddhist Tantra is often for supplication. Jewel lotus is a nickname for the Buddha of Compassion. Buddha of Compassion has many names. In Sanskrit, it's Avalokiteshvara, kind of a tongue twister. In various provinces of China, it's Kuan Yin, or Quan Shi Yin, or Quan Chi Yin Pusa. In Japan, it's Kwanzian Bosatsu. In Vietnam, it's Quan Thiam. And in Tibet, it's Chain Rei Zig. However you pronounce the name, it's still the Buddha of Compassion. So the particular emphasis in Tibet for the yogis who were primarily devoted to the Buddha of Compassion was that they summarized the entire Buddhist path, all of Buddha's 84,000 teachings, as those of love and those of letting go. So the jewel represents love. The lotus represents the wisdom of letting go. So you put it all together, and Om Mani Padme Hum could be translated as, hey, oh you who are the embodiment and the perfection of love and letting go, can you help a brother out? So that's basically Om Mani Padme Hum. So before we get to the pronunciation, I'm going to ask you, Bryan, do you have any questions about what I've already just explained?
Nope.
I've
heard of Om Mani Padme Hum before. I've never chanted it though.
Okay,
how powerful is this?
Well, so my question though is, do you have any questions about what I already explained?
No.
Excellent. Then we're going to move on, okay? So now we're going to discuss how to pronounce it. Now, there is a wonderful passage. Well, as we know, the present Dalai Lama of Tibet is the 14th Dalai Lama, and one of his senior teachers was Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, who has passed on. Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche wrote a book, and in the book he explained that there was a great saint in Tibet named Karma Jigme, and he explored every tantric system that the Tibetan Buddhists practice. and he found no mantra more powerful than the 6-syllable mantra. So he made that the center of his practice, which was as simplified as it was effective. Now, I don't know about you, but I've seen all 6 Star Wars movies an embarrassing number of times. And so far, I have not been able to do any of the Jedi tricks. I can't levitate, I can't do the droid shove, I can't do the mind control trick. Can't do it. But what I found is the mantra is extremely useful. I've used it for healings. I've used it for inner work, helping people learn how to minimize and pacify their confusion and their fear and their rage and their sorrow, and how to increase and how to multiply their wisdom and their peace and their love and their joy. I know that I myself am a very poor Buddhist monk, but despite my many adventures and misadventures, I have shelter, I have robes, I have medicine when I'm sick. I might not live in the lap of luxury. I might not live in a lifestyle that Bill Gates is accustomed to. But all things considered, I'm delighted with the effect that both Chenrezig's mantra as well as his teachings have had in my life. Like I said before, this is not guaranteed to make you a multimillionaire overnight, but it can help. So let's move forward to the pronunciation. And we're going to do 2 pronunciation drills. We're going to start with what I like to call syllabic ping pong. I'm going to say a syllable, and then you're going to repeat it after me. We're not going to chant. We're not going to sing. We're just going to recite it conversationally. The reason for that is when we chant or we intone, there's a lot of momentum, and it's tough to adjust it. But when we're just reciting it conversationally, it's easy to fine-tune our adjustment, which is optimal at this point of the process. So we're going to begin right now. And this is helpful, as of course, if you're looking at the 3-couplet prayer that I've written out for you already. So let's begin. Om.
Om.
Good. Om.
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 And we're going to repeat each syllable 3 times. So just so that you know what's coming up, let's move on to the 2nd syllable. Ma.
Ma.
Good. Ma. Your turn.
Ma.
Good. Ma.
Ma.
Perfect. And here's the basic pronunciation rule. You pronounce the consonants like they're English. You pronounce the vowels like they're Spanish. Now, I got to tell you, I took Spanish for 6 years. I took Spanish 1 for 5 years. Failed it for 5 years consecutively. I am lame. So when I say pronounce the vowels like it's Spanish, bear in mind, I'm not a great linguist.
That's okay.
I've had Tibetans say to me, please stop trying to murder our language. The Chinese are already doing that on your behalf. Your job is redundant. Oh, stupid white boy. So, not a great linguist. So let's move on. So, again, ma.
Ma.
Good. Ma.
Ma.
Perfect. 3rd syllable. Ni. Just like K-N-E-E. Ni.
Ni.
Good. Ni.
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 And if you are half as geeky as me, then you will have seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
I have years ago.
Okay, do you remember the night? We are the knights who say "Nee."
It's been a while.
Okay. So you can tell the nerd is strong with this one, huh? You know, the great thing about Monty Python, it is the purest form of birth control.
Okay.
Because I tell you, if you can quote Monty Python to a girl, you'll never have to worry about getting her pregnant.
I'll remember that.
Oh, yeah. But you never have to worry about going on a date with her either. That's how it works.
That's fine. Hey, no.
So let's move on. Syllable 4 is pod, P-A-D.
Pod.
Good. Pod.
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 Perfect. 5th syllable is may, like mother may I. May.
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 And last time, may.
May.
Perfect. Last syllable is whom, like the way a stuffy butler might answer the door and say, whom shall I say is calling? Like that.
Okay.
So, whom, whom,
Whom.
whom. Okay, so you've, congratulations, you've survived syllabic ping pong.
Okay.
Now we're going to do the second pronunciation drill. And at this point, you could be rolling your eyeballs and saying, man, this is so pedantic, this is so beneath me. Okay, so now we're going to challenge you with the second and final pronunciation drill. I call this syllable stacking. When I was a child, occasionally my mother would give my sister and I each a plate of cookies and a glass of milk.
Okay.
And my sister would arrange her cookies in a floral pattern, and I, being a boy, I had the Lego gene, so I had to stack the Oreos as tall as I could to make the leaning tower of carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to make the leaning tower of syllables right now. So we're going to start off easy. Om.
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 Good. Now we are going to use 2 syllables. Om ma.
Om. Ma.
Good. Om ma.
Om. Ma.
Excellent. Om ma.
Om. Ma.
All right. And now we're going to play with 3 syllables. Om mani.
Om. Mani.
Om mani.
Om. Mani.
Om mani.
Om. Mani.
Excellent. Now we're going to play with 4 syllables. I'm nothing if not predictable, huh? Okay. Now we're going to play with 4 syllables. Om mani pod.
Om. Mani. Pod.
Good. And it's not pa, but pod. There's you want to pronounce the consonant. I know that sounds silly, but that's the way it works. So here we go.
Okay.
Om mani pod.
Om. Mani. Pod.
Good. Om mani pod.
Om. Mani. Pod.
Okay. Now, some people, I'm sure you're not one of these people, but some people are perfectionistic, and they think, if I can't do it perfectly and effortlessly the first time, then it's beneath me. No, no, no. Repetition, repetition is the mother of skill. Some people say repetition is a motherfucker, but that's completely different. Repetition is the mother of skill, so the more you do it, the better you get. One moment, I have to get some water.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. I'm not sure if you can tell behind me is the neighbor's cat. And he's...
I don't have a camera, so I don't know.
Oh, you can't. You're missing out. This is the cat's lying draped over my couch, supervising the Dharma lesson.
Oh, okay.
Because truly that...
You did that well.
Huh? Yes.
You did that well.
He supervises so well that he's thinking about his new job as a Caltrans supervisor.
Oh, okay.
Caltrans, those are the highway workers in California.
Okay.
Okay, enough of this. So, 5 syllables. Here we go. Om mani padme hum.
Om. Mani. Padme. Hum.
And of course, if you're geeky, and you're probably not, you're probably more cool than geeky, but not me. One of the reasons I love the first and one of the few things I love about the first 3 Star Wars movies was the fact that Luke Skywalker's mama was named Padme. which I absolutely love. Queen Amadea's first name was Padme.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Sir George Lucas gets bonus points for that in my book.
He's also a billionaire.
Yeah. You mean he doesn't need my bonus points? So let's continue. 6 syllables. Here we go. 6 syllables. No waiting. Om Mani Padme Hum.
Om Mani Padme Hum.
Close. The last syllable is whom.
Okay.
So let's try again. Om Mani Padme Hum.
Om Mani Padme Hum.
Okay, so you're saying, it sounds like you're saying home, like where are you going? I'm going home, but it's whom, like to whom we were addressing.
Well, yeah, that's what I said, home.
Okay. So let's continue. Last repetition. Om Mani Padme Hum.
Om Mani Padme Hum.
Good. Okay. So now that you learned the history of the mantra and the translation of the mantra and the pronunciation of the mantra, I'm going to give you what we call in Tantra the empowerment of the mantra. And it sounds kind of spooky, and that's because it is. Tell me, have you ever received acupressure or a Reiki treatment or something like that?
No. I've heard of them, but no.
Okay, so that's basically it. I'm going to send energy into your body, and it's going, you may feel it, you may not, but when you're done, you're going to want to drink 8 to 16 ounces of water quickly. And you'll probably...
16 ounces or 16 ounces?
1 to 2 glasses of water. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, so before we go any further, before we start the actual empowerment, do you have any questions about the pronunciation, or the history, or the translation of the mantra?
No.
Okay.
I do have one question, though.
Is it about the stuff? Okay, lay it on me.
Okay. Now, I know that some schools of thought, some traditions believe that in order for you to receive initiation or something like that, or to do mantras, you need to be facing north. Is that a requirement?
It's not.
Okay.
Not to me. There, in every spiritual path, in every sect of every spiritual path, there is a majority of fundamentalists and a minority of liberals. Fundamentalists are typically motivated by fear. They tend to be very rigid. That rigidity gives birth to intolerance and to crankiness. The liberals tend to be very, very, very flexible. When presented with a new practice, the fundamentalists typically ask, hey, how old is this practice? And B, who of prominence likes this practice? Whereas a liberal would say, hey, does this practice work? And number 2, is it easy to do? So there's a completely different mindset. Now, I'm not going to say that the fundamentalist path is bad and destructive. It's just not for me. It's not the path I teach. It's the most frequently taught spin in every sect of every religion. So I reference it so that people won't get completely turned around. But I definitely am a liberal. And that's why some people think I'm Satan incarnate. And I got to tell you, if I was Satan incarnate and I had a wealth of diabolical powers, I would give myself more health and a bit more wealth. Really, I don't think I'd be living where I live.
Okay, cool.
So if I was, in fact, a dark, infernal lord, I must be a very incompetent one.
You're not doing it right, huh?
I must have flunked out of hell you. Okay, so I might not be funny, but at least I amuse myself. So, and apparently Bryan. So let's move forward for the tantric empowerment. So Bryan, here's what I want you to do. I want you to scoot forward in your chair so you're not slumping back. I want your feet to be flat on the ground. I want your head to be over your shoulders to be over your tush. There was, back in the 60s, there was a Jewish comedy record called When You're in Love, the Whole World is Jewish. And as you can tell by my generous use of Yiddish, I was raised as a Yid, a Heb, a Red Sea pedestrian. So, let's move forward.
Hey, I met some real cool people back east who were Jewish, you know?
Okay, good. So, at this point, some people get nervous, and they say, but Lama Jigme, I don't visualize so good. Is that going to be a hindrance? And my response is, listen, some people can visualize, like Michelangelo with a paintbrush, but the rest of us pretty much visualize like a drunk monkey with a crayon. That's okay.
That sounds like me.
I'm actually going to use wording that's going to go around your conscious mind, into your viscera, into your subconscious mind. So even though visual images might not percolate up to your conscious mind, your subconscious is going to listen and be affected in a really powerful way. Or at least that's the idea that I'm going to play with, and that's the space that I'm going to set.
Okay.
And so you've seen my picture on Facebook, and if you haven't, that's okay. You can just imagine you can just in your mind draw a stick figure of me sitting on a chair. And above my head, you can imagine a little teeny tiny white four-armed Buddha, and we're going to pretend that's a representation of the Buddha of compassion. And we're going to imagine that teeny tiny Buddha getting really, really small until he's the size of a grape. And we're going to imagine what it could look like if that grape entered the crown of my head at the fontanel, descended my central channel, passing through my throat, passing through my heart, passing through my navel, passing through the secret wheel, which is and coming to rest at a place called the secret place. That sounds very spooky, but it's called the secret place because there's no external markings. The secret place is approximately 4 finger widths below your navel. And so we're just going to imagine that the Buddha of Compassion is now sitting in my secret place. And I now invite you to imagine what it could feel like if from the Buddha in my lower belly, green blessing lights now emitted, a sphere of green blessing lights now emitted that pervaded the entire universe, including you. And you can imagine what it could feel like if now green blessing lights filled your lower belly. And you can silently drink it in as now I intone Om Mani Man Me And now you can imagine the grape-sized Buddha of Compassion climbing my central channel, coming to rest the place just behind my navel. And you could imagine what it could feel like if from the Buddha of Compassion's navel, at my navel, a sphere of golden blessing light could expand to pervade the entire universe. And you could imagine what it could feel like if now golden blessing light pervaded the space behind your navel. As now I intone Om Mani Pan Me Hum. And now we can imagine the grape-sized manifestation of the Buddha of Compassion at my navel, could climb my central channel and come to rest in the upper third of my chest in a place we call the heart wheel. And we could imagine that from his heart wheel could come a little teeny tiny blue sphere of blessing light that grows and grows and pervades the entire universe. And you can imagine what it could feel like if this blue blessing light filled your upper chest and completely purified all of your mental karmic negativities and completely lavished you with the Buddha of Compassion's mental or intellectual blessings. As now I invoke Om Mani Padme Hum. And now we can imagine what it would feel like if the grape-sized manifestation of the Buddha of Compassion at my heart climbed my central channel and came to rest at my throat wheel, which is the place behind my Adam's apple, the place that tends to tighten up when you feel like you're going to cry. And I invite you to imagine what it could feel like if from the Buddha of Compassion's throat, there appeared a teeny tiny red sphere of blessing light that grew and grew and pervaded the entire universe. And I invite you to imagine what it could feel like if this red blessing light now pervaded the space in your throat and purified all of your verbal karmic negativities and lavished you with all the verbal blessings of the Buddha of Compassion. As now I invoke Om Mani Padme Hum. And now I invite you to imagine what it could feel if you actually saw the grape-sized aspect of the Buddha of Compassion further climb my central channel and come to rest at the very crown of my head. I invite you to imagine what it could feel like if you now saw a teeny tiny white sphere of light manifest at the crown of his head, at the crown of my head. And I invite you to imagine what it could feel like if that sphere grew in size, so much so that it pervaded the entire universe. And lastly, I invite you to imagine what it could feel like if those white blessing lights now pervaded the top of your head. So purifying all of your physical negativities and lavishing you with the physical blessings of the Buddha of Compassion. As now I invoke Om Mani Padme Hum. And pretend you're facing me, pretend I'm in front of you, even if I just look like a stick figure. That's okay. And put your hands up like you're a kid playing stick 'em up, and have your palms face me, like we're going to play patty cake. I assure you, we won't. But what I'm going to do now is, I want you to imagine what it could feel like if you actually saw those 5 colored lights, the green and the yellow and the blue and the red and the white lights, leaving through the pores of my palms and my fingers, and entering the pores of your palms and your fingers, as I now awaken or further awaken your potential as a healer of hearts and lives of others. Just like you want to do through that project you told me about, that we're not going to mention on YouTube. Okay, so here we go. Om Mani Padme Hum. lastly, I want you to imagine that everyone's body had approximately 64,000 skin pores. I want you to imagine what it could feel like if from my 64,000 skin pores there came 64,000 rays of light, some green, some yellow, some blue, some red, and some white. And they pervaded your 64,000 skin pores, so multiplying your capacity to experience the wisdom of letting go. Not just intellectually, not just volitionally, but actually viscerally. So here we go. Om Manipa Me Hum. So at this point you've received a lot of energy, and in Buddhism one of the things we do is when we generate energy, we then guide that energy through an intention. The easiest way to sculpt or guide an intention is through words. So here's my words to guide the energy that you've just received. Bryan, may you be healthy, wealthy, and happy. May you practice skillfully and joyfully. May you accomplish Chenrei Zig in this life, and then help many others do likewise. For truly that is the meaning of life. Om Mani Padme Hum. So take a sip of water if you have water available.
Give me a second.
Let me know when you're back. Let me know when you're good to go.
Alright, we got a sip.
Okay. Now, Bryan, I invite you to turn your attention, and point your eyes at the email I sent you, because now that we are armed to the teeth with that mantra, let's do something with it. How's that sound?
Cool, let me get my glasses.
Yes, glasses are good, because it's tough to use the internet by braille.
Yeah, that's a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
That's the email.
So, it is. Some fundamentalists would say Buddha actually gave 84,000 discourses, but as a liberal, I like to say that's what we call a metaphor, a trope, most likely hyperbole. Although, if he gave, I think, 8 discourses a day, 365 days a year for 40 years, that might count. But still, I'm going to say 84,000 discourses is poetic.
Okay.
But it's been said that Buddha often repeated himself and attempted to explain his teachings in an outline form.
Okay.
And so, periodically, over the last 26 centuries, great and lesser scholars have outlined Buddha's teachings. There have been Theravadan and their outlines like this, and there have been Tantric outlines like this. In Tibet, we call one of those outlines the Lam Rim, or the path with the steps, as opposed to climbing up the slide. You know, when you're a kid, there's always that kid who tried climbing up the slide instead of the ladder.
Yeah.
I'm sure you never did that.
Yeah, I did.
But it's always easier to climb up with the steps. A great scholar in the Tibetan sect, the Gelug sect, that gave us the Dalai Lamas, wrote several Lam Rims. One's literally as thick as a phone book. One is wafer thin. And so that's what I'm turning my attention to, the really thin one. And he said the entire path of compassion comes down to 3 principal points: renunciation, compassion, and the wisdom of letting go. Those 3 couplets are organized by renunciation, compassion, and wisdom. So, in many fundamentalist traditions, renunciation is taught as, hey, kids, if it feels good, don't do it! For God's sakes, don't do it!
Yeah.
But as a liberal, we say, hey, here's the deal. Suffering sucks, so let's renounce suffering. Oh yeah, suffering has causes, so let's renounce the causes of suffering too, which is completely different than renouncing pleasure. And so here's the idea. Hey, do you want your fingers mangled? Of course you don't. So renounce the idea of sticking your hand in a running disposal. How's that sound? You know, what's that? You don't want to get beaten half to death? Then renounce the practice of running up to cops and kicking them in the shins. Very bad idea.
Okay.
Yeah. Want to avoid going to jail? Then renounce the practice of not paying your taxes.
Yeah.
So the renunciation here is what we're renouncing is suffering. And so for you, you've had some lack in your life, and you wish to renounce that lack. And of course, I'm not going to insult your intelligence and tell you that these manifestation practices are no substitute for looking for a job. In this economy, to say, hey, have you tried looking for a job? It's kind of like poking in the eye and punching the nose, and I'm not going to do that because it would hurt your feelings and then I'd cry. So I'm just going to give you the benefit of the doubt and assume that you've pounded the pavement and applied for everything, and you're really just at your wit's end, and here I am.
Yeah.
So, having said that, there is I have a good friend who is a Christian fundamentalist, bless his heart, and he loves quoting the Hebrew prophets to me. He fails to see the irony of that. And there's this wonderful story of this Hebrew prophet, and who was very, very weak, and the ravens brought him food. And many fundamentalist ministers will say, that's a great story, but if you want food, you have to get up and go make yourself a sandwich in the kitchen. God's not going to send crows to give you Big Macs. I love that story, but you know what that does? But still, there's when you've exhausted all your physical avenues of action, it's good to have at least something to do with your energy. It's much more constructive to say, I've got this energy, and sure, I could invest this energy in fear and resentment, but maybe instead I'll invest it in hope and action. So that's what we're going to do. So the whole idea is, and the couplet before you reads, the first couplet reads, O Manipa, whom great wealth for Bryan. Now, obviously, you're not going to refer to yourself in the third person, unless, of course, you're a professional athlete. So you'll just recite, O Manipa, whom great wealth for me. Now, some people would say, oh, Lama Jigme, you really must be of Satan, because you're playing with fire. And my answer is, yeah. Here's the deal. We all have a selfish streak. We can either pretend we don't, and we can put our hands over our ears and go, la 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 la, I only think good thoughts. I am awesome that way. Or, that's one extreme. The other extreme is we can just indulge our selfishness, and that never ends badly. Or we can find the middle path. And the middle path says, okay, I'm aware of my selfishness, but rather than let it control me, I'm going to find a way to harness that energy in the most beneficial way possible. So what we're dealing with in the first couplet is a self-centered pulling energy. You might call it greed. But we're not staying there. That's just a starting point. And so we're going to harness this momentum. This is, I want wealth. And in the next couplet, O Manipa, him, great wealth for all, we're taking that momentum and just running with it and saying, I want great wealth for everyone. And all of a sudden we've converted selfish greed into universal love. It's kind of like taking an umbrella from in a closed position and opening it up into the open position. And that's what we're doing here. And so the power, the irony is that we've taken something as venal, a selfish greed, and harnessed the momentum to access universal love. So not only does Om Mani Padme Hum generate good karma, but embracing the intention that all others be lavished with great wealth purifies your bad karma and increases your good karma. Now, you can't tell this because you're on the phone, but I'm gesturing wildly. In fact, I even hurt myself just now gesturing wildly. Anyway, the third one, Om Mani Padme Hum, completely letting go. Many decades ago, I'm much older than I look, many decades ago, I didn't get this. When I manifested, I came from a place of fear and rigidity. And I couldn't let go. And the irony is that failing to let go actually hindered my ability to manifest. The third step, after the first step of deciding what you want, and the second step of embracing universal love so everyone else gets what they want, the third step is the intention of letting go. Now, letting go should not be confused with pushing away. When I think about letting go and pushing away, I think about cartoons. Specifically, I think about Pepe Le Pew and the American Cat. Do you remember that?
I remember Pepe.
And Pepe Le Pew is, "Oh, mon chéri, let me show you the way of the world." And the cat's is like, "Get away from me," just pushing Le Pew away as hard as she can. That's not letting go. That's just aversion, which is another trap. Letting go is being aware of what you're experiencing in the moment on the in-breath, and on the out-breath, we let go. So here's how that works. Every in-breath, whether we know it or not, whether we feel it or not, we kind of tighten. And that tightening is optimal for concentration, for awareness. On every out-breath, the opposite occurs. On every out-breath, whether we know it or feel it or believe it, we relax, even a little bit. And that relaxation, that physical relaxation, can act as the carrier wave for us to intellectually and emotionally release our grasp and relax a little bit and let go. So, here's a good thing we can do. Here's a fun way. Now that we've got the idea of the mantra and we've got the idea of the 3 couplets, let's find a way to practice that. Sound good? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is just conversationally recite the 3 couplets. Now, what I like to do is I'd like to make every odd line a question and every even line an answer. And that comes from musical notation. And when I say a question and answer, I'm talking about the intonation. For instance, Om Mani Padme Hum, great wealth for Bryan. Could you hear the question and the answer? Home
was the question.
Right. Great wealth for Bryan was the answer. So, and we're just going to do it all the way down. Om Mani Padme Hum, great wealth for Bryan. Om Mani Padme Hum, great wealth for all. Om Mani Padme Hum, completely letting go.
Okay.
So by doing that, by beginning our spiritual practice with that recitation, we're setting space. Okay, this is how I'm going to practice renunciation, compassion, and wisdom right now. Cool. Now, we're going to act on this. So we're going to do this in a very concise way that you can expand if you want to, but I don't want to make your head explode unnecessarily. Cool?
Okay. Cool.
So, for the first exercise on the in-breath, we're going to mentally recite the intention. Great wealth for Bryan, or in your case, great wealth for me. So you're going to mentally recite that on your in-breath. On your out-breath, you're going to intone the 6-syllable mantra 1 time for a total of 3 breaths. Let's do this together right now. Om Mani Padme Hum.
Om Mani Padme Hum.
and you don't have to, you can actually do this with me at the same time. So let's do it again. Om Mani Padme Hum. And it would probably be better if you didn't do it right into the phone, because it's confusing for the folks listening to this video. So just turn the instead of having the phone pointed at your mouth, just point it away from your mouth when you're intoning it. Would that be okay?
Sure.
So third time. Om Mani Padme Hum. Now, we finished that first set of 3. Now it's for the second set of 3. On the in-breath, you're going to intend great wealth for all. On the out-breath, as you intone the 6th syllable mantra, really imagine, if you can, rays of wealth coming out of you as light through all your 64,000 skin pores, filling the universe with wealth-inducing light. And it's what's more important than seeing it is wishing it. The power of wishing, the ability to emote this welfare, this well-being to all others is very powerful. So let's play with this right now. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. So we've done 2 sets of 3. It's time for a final set of 3. On the in-breath, we're going to intend completely letting go. Now, noticing, I keep repeating the word intend. This is not an affirmation. An affirmation is a lie you tell yourself about what you're currently experiencing. I am experiencing this and such. Or, I will experience this and such. No. We're not trying to lie to ourselves. We're just saying, this is my intention. This is my will. Whatever energy I'm generating in this practice, I intend this energy to be used for this outcome. Understanding the difference between an affirmation and a mantra-empowered intention is super important. So, wait, the cat wants out, and I must obey my feline master. Okay, basement cat, out you go. And I'm back. So the key, I remember one time I was receiving the pointing out instructions from Bakutuku, and I was very, very confused at that point in my spiritual journey. I'd spent many years as a fundamentalist Buddhist studying, rigidly studying Gelug doctrine, and beginning to sample Kagyu and Nyingma and Sakya doctrine, and I was completely in my head. And in his wonderful voice, he spoke around his goiter and said, "No, you think too much, just relax." And it changed everything. So on the in-breath, you're going to intend completely letting go, and the out-breath is you intone the 6-syllable mantra, consciously choose to relax, at least to relax your body, at least as much of your body as you can. Believe it or not, that is huge. So let's play with this right now for 3 breaths. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Om Mani Pad Manipa me hum. Some people say, Lama Jigme, I'm just too spiritual to pray for myself, so I'll pray for everyone else and just let go. My answer is, hey, don't do that. Because that selfish carrier wave is what is your foundation for your compassion and your love. And that the good karma generated by your compassion and your love is that foundation for the wisdom of letting go. So don't try to reinvent the wheel. So let's continue. Completely letting go in the in-breath. Om Mani Padme Hum. You want to end this with a very faint Mona Lisa smile on your face. That really just cranks up the bliss to 11. If you get that reference. To Spinal Tap. Anyway, so final repetition. Om Mani Padme And so this is very much like the Oreo cookies that me and my sister were stacking in a previous story. Because just as an Oreo cookie goes black cookie, white icing, black cookie, we're going to start off with the 3-couplet prayer, followed by the actual practice, followed by a re-exploration of the 3-couplet prayer. So let's recite the 3-couplet prayer again in our sing-song style. Om Mani Padme Hum, great wealth for Bryan. Om Mani Padme Hum, great wealth for all. Om Mani Padme Hum, completely letting go. So Bryan, I hope your head isn't. That's all I'm going to give you tonight because it's been about an hour, and quite frankly, if your head explodes, I'm going to get a very nasty letter from your landlord. And possibly a cleaning bill. And I don't want that. No head explosions for you. Do you have any questions about the techniques that I gave you tonight?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Huh?
Do you have any questions about the techniques that I gave you tonight?
No, I just basically want to make sure that if I do all 3 couplets in succession, right?
Right. Just exactly the way we did. And that's the nice thing is, after class, about 30 minutes after class, I'm going to send you the link for this. So if you ever get confused, you can follow along. You say, hey, Lama Jigme, I don't want to sit for 52 minutes. Well, that's the beautiful thing about YouTube. You can fast forward it to the exact spot you want to start it at.
Yeah.
And this is not a comment on your intellect. But this is designed to be idiot-proof instructions. Not that you're an idiot, but the guy sitting to your left, I'm wondering about.
Okay.
The guy with the lazy eye and the drool descending from the right corner of his mouth. I'm keeping an eye on him.
No, I don't have any drool in my mouth. No.
Did you ever see Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
I'm not sure. Was Roger Rabbit, was that the cartoon, the park cartoon with the girl, the voluptuous,
Jessica Rabbit? That was it?
I didn't see the whole thing, but I saw parts of it.
Okay. Anywho. So, Bryan, I'll tell you what. Practice this every morning. Practice this every evening. If you some people, they practice it 4 times a day. For instance, some people practice it at 6 a.m., 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 6 p.m. You don't have to, but at least twice a day, every day. It's simple enough.
How many times?
Just the way we did. What we did was we practiced it, 1 the 3-couplet prayer, followed by 3 breaths per cup for 3 breaths per exercise, followed by the 3-couplet prayer. For some people, that's enough. Some people would rather do 9 breaths per exercise. Some people would rather do 24 breaths per exercise. Some people would rather do 36. But we start off with 3. And that's a good place to start. Because let's face it, most people don't have a background in, intense invocation or intense meditation, and I don't want to blow their circuits. So,
Okay.
a 10-minute practice is a good place to start.
Now, I got a question. I want to thank you for everything you're doing for me. It's just totally awesome. It totally changed my perspective.
Are you still there? Hello? Bryan, are you still there? Okay, Bryan, I can't hear you, but if you can hear me, call me back ASAP. We're waiting on Bryan. This is, I think, the 3rd time his phone is having a nervous breakdown. Okay. Oh, I think that's Bryan now. Good evening. Oh, Bryan, your phone this time was my fault. Bryan, can you hear me? Okay, wait a second. Yeah, wait a second. Okay, what's your question, Bryan? Oh, man. My phone's having a nervous breakdown. Bryan, can you hear me? No, so I'll tell you what. Real quickly, ask me your question. No, it's lovely if you can get one, but if you can't, it'll still work. But actually, the phone works better because that way I can record you on, what's it called, YouTube, and the whole world gets to benefit from your circumstance. Okay. Well, actually, I wouldn't worry. Skype is free and you can use Skype to call phones, which is lovely. So I'll tell you what. Why don't you give this a whirl, at least twice a day for the next 4 days, and shoot me an email. Okay, well, we'll set space that it's not, because we don't. And, by the way, if it is on /leg, transcribe all the instructions I gave you on paper. Because paper does not crash. Okay, I must bid you adieu, but have a beautiful weekend, my friend. Oh, you're utterly welcome. Bye-bye now. Well, folks, I hope you found this helpful. And it's funny, I know I'm going to get more hate mail saying, oh, Lama Jigme, he's all about the money. Guys, if you could visit me and have lunch with me sometime and, eat bean porridge with me, I don't think you'd think I was a greedy bastard. But anyway, I thank you for your time and your kind attention. I thank you for your support and your enthusiasm to practice these instructions. May you and yours be healthy and happy. Om Manipa. Before you go, I want to remind you to click the subscribe button, as well as the like button and the share button. There are links below this video, about 3 inches or so below this video. There's a button that reads Show More. When you click that, it'll reveal a list of links as long as my arm. Those links are to free resources that can help you out. One of those, you could use one of those links, help keep this monk fed. It's not, which is lovely, but not mandatory. There's another link that you could use to register for the next series of live weekly webinars. When do they begin? Monday, the 6th of May. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.